That's the Gaia Namaskar song. And before Elisabet starts speaking, I just want to show you this book for those of you who've never seen this. Put this on your must-read list. She has a bigger book called Earth Dance, but just so poetic, powerful. She is definitely a one of my heroes in bridging science and spirituality, and allowing the voice of the divine feminine to be expressed inside of something like science, which has been very masculine oriented for hundreds of thousands of years. And with that said, Elisabet, welcome. It's so wonderful to have you. Let's see if I can. Oh, I think you're muted right now. I just asked you. Okay, here we go.
Okay, here we are. Okay. Thank you so much, dear Jinju. It really is a pleasure to be here. And I loved your description of the Lion's Gate because I am 8-8. I am that double infinity symbol. I am 88 years old. And did you know that there is a Qigong exercise in which you move your hips in that infinity circle, movement of the infinity symbol, and sweep your hand across your belly, letting whatever you want to let go out behind you as you sweep across it, as you move in that infinity way. And I've been doing that lately. So that's a nice connection we have. Jinju has asked me to read the little passage on dance by Lyell Watson. One of my very favorite books is his book, which is about a dancer on an Indonesian island, Gifts of Unknown Things. There it is. Good, she's got it. So here's, I quoted that, what he wrote in that book in my Earth Dance book. And he says, dancing is surely the most basic and relevant of all forms of expression. Nothing else can so effectively give outward form to inner experience. Poetry and music exist in time. Painting and architecture are part of space, but only the dance lives at once in both space and time. In it, the creator and the thing created, the artist and the expression are one. We begin to realize that our universe is, in a sense, brought into being by the participation of those involved in it. It is a dance, for participation is its organizing principle. This is the important new concept of quantum mechanics. It takes place in our understanding of the old notion of observation, of watching without getting involved. That's what Western science tells us to do. Quantum theory says, however, that it can't be done, that spectators can sit in their rigid row as long as they like, but there will never be a performance unless at least one of them takes part. And conversely, that it needs only one participant, because that one is the essence of all people and the quintessence of the whole cosmos. So, how very appropriate that you are teaching dance to us. And, you know, this universe is not the mechanism we were taught it was. It is an organism. And some of you know my keyboard model. It's just a one-page article that you can all have for free if you haven't seen it. And it's about what quantum mechanics and the standard model of physics, the Einsteinian Newtonian model, the only thing they agree on is that the cosmos is made of vibrations. Vibrations are waves. They are not digital. They are waves. And so I represent this with a keyboard with matter in the low keys, and then electromagnetic energy as you go up the keyboard. And Einstein showed us that those are one and the same thing, that matter is energy, energy is matter, that you can convert the music up and down this keyboard. Now, Western science can't go any further because it insists that to be real, something has to be measurable with physical instruments. But the keyboard gets less and less material as you go up past matter and energy into mind, consciousness, spirit, into these parts of the keyboard that are non-material. And for those of you who are interested in UFOs, just consider how UFOs fly in the air and then suddenly disappear. How did they do that? Because their civilization is so advanced that they can play the whole keyboard and slide up out of the material into the non-material where we can't see them or shoot them down. So this is the kind of future that humans could be heading into, because that keyboard represents you and me. Each of us is matter, energy, spirit. We're not bodies with minds, we're body, mind, spirits, right? And it also represents the entire universe, because it too is matter, energy, and spirit. Now, the Eastern sciences start at the high end of the keyboard in the field of cosmic consciousness where everything arises. And simply by slowing down those vibrations, they can get all the way through energy and matter. But the Western scientists only get up to energy and then they can't measure up higher. So there's an advantage to knowing about Vedic science and about Taoism, which has exactly that matter, energy, spirit configuration. So the most important thing I discovered in evolution as an evolution biologist was that the dance of life is actually a maturation cycle that keeps repeating over and over again. Now, biologists have actually shown the ecosystems of the world to be divided into types 1, 2, and 3. And their type 1 is one in which all the species are very competitive. And their type 3 is one in which all the species are very cooperative. And if you ask what is 2, they'll say it's a mixture of both. It's a replacement thing. The cooperative ones gradually replace, but they don't see this as a maturation cycle. They don't see it as a learning process where you move from infant dependence to adolescent feisty competitiveness, and then we expect even ourselves to become mature cooperative citizens, don't we? And so what we see in the world today is a failure of maturation in the leadership of the whole global economy and polity. And politics and economics cannot be separated. They belong together. Now, when you're in kindergarten, you get taught a few things about life and how you're supposed to be growing up. And that is, they teach us, don't call each other names. Don't take things away from each other. And certainly don't hit each other. That's a very immature thing to do. Grown-ups don't solve their problems by hitting each other. But what happens when you look at the internet and television and the news, and you see that the leaders of the greatest organizations in the world are doing exactly what they were taught in kindergarten not to do. They're all calling each other names and taking things away from each other, exploiting their resources and making war on each other, hitting each other. I mean, really, we have to get together and say, no way, you are not growing up and we are not going to be like you. We're going to build a brand new kind of a world that is the kind that we have lots of role models for in ancient civilizations, in indigenous cultures, where people understood that caring and sharing are the important principles, not hostile competition. And probably the best way to describe this was that I discovered in studying evolution my way, that it's actually cheaper to feed your enemies than to kill them. It is less expensive energetically or in monetary terms to make friends than it is to maintain hostilities. So that's where we can dance our way into a better future. And I call myself a realistic idealist because I'm not afraid to look at what's happening. I've been learning about global warming for over 40 years now, first with the best climatologist in history, probably Jim Lovelock, who was the author of the Gaia Hypothesis. And not many people know that he was actually a climate person who really understood the hydrological cycle of the planet, which is more important even than the carbon issue you hear so much about. And then I met Jim Hansen, the best climatologist in the United States. And years ago, I stood with him at the foot of a building at the seashore in Tokyo. And he said, Elisabet, look up and count where the 15th story is on this building. That is where the sea level is going, because we can no longer stop this process where the more the ice melts, the less reflection of heat there is from the earth, and the more absorbed into it. And the more the ice melts, the warmer it gets, and the warmer it gets, the more the ice melts. So that's what we call a positive feedback cycle that acts on itself. And that is what we have to live with now, to understand that this is happening and to figure out how to build caring and sharing communities wherever we are, and where individuals and the collective are always in dialogue with each other. No indigenous culture ever voted, ever used elections to make decisions. They dialogued between each individual being heard and the community, and looking at what serves the whole community and what serves me as an individuated member of the community. And when you have to sit in dialogue until you all come to some agreements, you start to give up some of your personal, no, my way or the highway kind of ideas. And you realize that this is always a compromise where everyone wants to flourish and cannot unless the whole flourishes. So that dance between individual and community is what we always, always have to discover. And I like to say something that I learned from the Polynesian navigators, who were crossing the Pacific in hand-built canoes made entirely of trees and grasses and stones to cut the wood, to hollow it out, fire to help hollow out the logs. And I just met a wonderful woman from New Zealand I hadn't known before, from Aotearoa, who was chosen on the team to weave the new sails for the new Hokulea sails, because they've been wearing out and traveled all around the globe, spreading love of planet and ourselves, right? And so we can learn from the navigators how they were able to navigate without compasses or any kind of instrumentation. And they knew so many ways to look at nature, to see what nature's doing, to watch the seaweed drifting, to know that seabirds only fly so many miles from their island. So if you see a seabird, there's got to be an island near. And to feel the swells of waves that bounce off islands and come back to where your canoe is. All these things they could read in nature, even if there was cloud cover for weeks, when you couldn't read the stars, which of course they knew very well too. And so what they said was, when all else fails, stand tall in your canoe until you can see your destination. Now, what does that mean? When you're feeling like you're at the bottom of a dark well, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and what can you do about it as an individual? Rise up with your consciousness. Move out of that dark place in the well. Who hasn't played on a Hawaiian beach during a dull lecture? You know, you can move your consciousness around, can't you? So go up high enough so you can look down on this human drama. You see the swirls and eddies. You see what's happening. You stop judging what's going on and learn to discern it. so that you can see where are there people doing things I find interesting, to join up with them, to move into their flow, come down, join that eddy, that wave that makes your heart sing, whether you're an artist or an engineer or a teacher or a scientist or whatever. You will find people doing already the things we want to do. The world is filled now with communities that are caring and sharing, that are growing their own food, that are looking at the future, that are seeing what's our water going to be like in the future? What do we need to do to preserve it? There's so much going on. Every day I get emails about new organizations, whether it's the Global Eco Village Network or wonderful examples like the Mondragon cooperatives in northern Spain, spelled Mondragon, like my dragon in French. And in Sri Lanka, the Sarvadiya movement, where children are taught to meditate on just two things: inner peace and generosity. Imagine a world where everyone is peaceful and focused on, what do I have to give? What does my dance give to the world? And so I leave you with my own, since I won't be able to stay for this whole meeting, I will tell you that what I'm letting go is complaining. I learned this from a man named Eric Quisling, who has a wonderful book. And his first books of his I read were 3 little books about invertebrates: a clam, an ant, and what was the third one? An earthworm. And then the clam, on every page, the page is white, and there's a caption underneath. The clam always looks exactly alike, but his passions come out in the words below, what he's thinking and how he gets angry and how he solves his problems and stuff. So great sense of humor there. And anyway, the whole point is, let go of complaining. It's a very simple method. And then you can always add in the Dalai Lama's, be kind, right? These are the simple ways in this very complex world of thinking of things. And so I want to let go of complaining. And my vision is for a mature, loving, caring, and sharing future for humanity in harmony with each other, with all non-living beings. Another favorite book of mine right now is James Bridle's Ways of Being. He's an AI techie who understands why we should not be digitizing the universe, because none of the non-human aspects of our lives, communing with trees, communing with that pussycat, these are not digitizable events. These are flow. Jinju's favorite word, flow. Waves are flow. They are not bits and pieces. So that's it. That's my little message for you. And I hope we'll have time now for some reactions to it. Thank you all. Mahalo from Hawaii. Thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo nui loa. Oh, that was so inspiring and powerful as usual. Definitely going to take some of that, letting go of the complaining, and we're going to bring that vision into this next dance. And yeah, this is our chance. This is your chance. If anyone would like to ask a question, if anyone would like to just give a reflection to Elisabet,
you can just type it in.
you can type it in. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak. We have some stuff coming into the type box, the chat box. Anyone want to say anything or ask a question? I can ask on your behalf.
So Ray asked a question.
Yes.
He's curious.
Yes, so Ray asked a question. I'm curious about your relationship with fear, Elisabet. Can you speak to that more?
Yes, that's a really good question. And I think it's worth every one of us to look into our deepest, deepest selves to find out exactly what is it that we're afraid of. And I think the most generalized fear there is in humanity is the fear of death. Well, frankly, I look forward to death as graduation. I just have to make sure my mission on this planet is fulfilled before I get to graduate from it. So once you believe in this glorious whole keyboard universe, you realize that when you die, you just slide up the keyboard. You lose the low keys. And I tell young people who want to get out of this life because they see how badly humans are behaving, there's a little problem with that. If you destroy your body, you can't play the whole keyboard anymore. There is a time when you want to recycle the body. And if you believe in reincarnation, you can always get another one, right? And I've had many, many lifetimes, so I know this to be so. And anyway, get at that fear and really go into it deeply and say, is there another fear behind that one? Is there one behind that one? Is it an existential fear for what's happening on the planet? Congratulations, the planet is going through a bad time because of us humans, right? But we don't need to fear it. In fact, fear gets in the way. If you want to build a caring and sharing community, do it. Don't worry about, yes, it's going to get hotter. Yes, the sea level is going to rise. Be sensible in your plans for the future and find your community, because none of us can do this alone. We have to be together, and being together is the best antidote there is to fear. Because when you know that other people have your back, what's to be afraid of? And it's a beautiful universe out there, just as it is here, but keep playing the whole keyboard as long as you can.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Ray, and thank you for that response, Elisabet. Very powerful. You're such an inspiration. Yeah. Okay, we have another question about making decisions from Monica, who is from Lithuania, and she's here in Bali, and she's asking, do I need to make decisions in life or let the universe to lead me towards the best for me?
I like that question too. And it's actually a combination of those things, I believe. If any of you have read my Vista book, and it's free too, it's on my Sahtouris.com website. You can download the whole thing. And it's just a series of my adventures informing the worldview that I came to in the course of my long life. And there were a lot of adventures, and some of them seemed utterly magical. If you don't know how the universe works, manifesting can be very magical, apparently. Now, I used to get these occasionally. I would get a very clear order coming into my mind telling me to move somewhere. And it would always happen when I had absolutely no resources to move to some other place on the planet. And yet, because that was coming from the inside, from an inner voice, I said, I can't take orders from other humans, but when the higher power tells me to do something, I must do it. And so I shift into 100% belief that it will help me to do it if that's what it wants of me. And so I just start to say, okay, help me do it. Make things happen, and everything would happen exactly in time, on time. I wouldn't have the whole picture, but a certain amount of money would be required, say, to pack up a few things and ship them. And then I would get 2 jobs that added up to exactly that amount and in the currency that I had to pay it in. And then I would end up being on the same airline as my possessions came, and that they would come within 24 hours of my landing when they didn't know when I was going to get there, the shippers. And so all of this magic happens when you have this 100% belief in something. Eventually, I decided that was not a remote higher power. That was my own soul. you know, it wasn't nearly as distant as I had always assumed. My soul knows better than my body, my ego, you know, my soul transcends that ego and knows what I agreed to do in this life and is there to help me carry it out. And so that's what I would say about making decisions. Get very clear on what your mission is, what you want to do, and then trust that your own soul is here to help you to manifest those things. And just go for it with that belief. It works. It works. So you are making decisions, but you're doing them with the help of your soul because you're playing the whole keyboard.
Mahalo. I love that so, so much. And I will send out again, the link to her website and how you can access all of her amazing writings. Just a show of hands, how many people can relate to Elisabet's story about listening to a higher power, not knowing how something's going to come together, and then it just manifests? Raise your hand if you've experienced this. Yes, yes, yes.
Yay!
Oh,
Wonderful. That's wonderful news. Yes, and just keep it up. I'm just here to confirm that you're on the right track.
beautiful. Thank
So
you.
blessings to all of you.
Yeah, and blessings to you too, Elisabet. I will be in touch with you for a more personal Zoom with Sakai and Nova here soon. And thank you so much for blessing us with your presence, with your wisdom, with your words, with your heart, your aloha. We love you so, so much. Love you, love you, love you, love you. Aloha. I know she can't stay
And
with us,
thank
so.
you. Thank you all. You know, I'm always trying to find how to do this, that make these hearts go. And and for some reason I can't get it to do it here. Oh, here it is. I think this will do it. There. Blessings to you all.
Oh, blessings. Namaste.
Bye.
Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha.
And speaking of manifestation, this next dance we are going to do into the element of earth. How amazing is Elisabet, you all? She's, wow, we just got blasted with some really special, knowledge, wisdom, inspiration. She's a magical woman. And Gaia, this next dance, the song, most of you know the story, I think, but maybe for some of you who don't, just a brief background. Sometimes, speaking of what Elisabet was saying, we hear a voice, a higher power, and often, when we are in that moment of struggle, of wow, I